Okay, so if you've ever looked at the big social media platforms and thought, I wish I could just build my own, like a space where you make the rules, you control the data, free from all the corporate stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you also know that's usually seemed impossible. Building a social network the old way, it's staggeringly complex. We're talking huge costs, infrastructure nightmares, years of coding. This feels, I don't know, completely out of reach for most people.
It really has been. Historically, it felt like only huge companies with deep pockets could even attempt it. But things are shifting, especially as we talk more about Web4 concepts. The challenge isn't just, can we build it anymore? Now the question is becoming, how do you get genuine digital freedom, actual data sovereignty, without needing that massive multi-year development cycle? How do you get your own decentralized space up and running, like, now?
And that question, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We've got this really comprehensive guide from the Linkspreed Web4 platform, and their claim is pretty bold. They're offering something called social networks as a service, Sonos, I guess, over at web4.community. And the promise is that it completely sidesteps all those traditional roadblocks. So our mission here is to break down their step-by-step process. How can you, the listener, actually launch a fully decentralized social network basically instantly and have full control from the get-go?
Right. And this is the bit that really grabs your attention, the one prompt method. The whole idea is engineered for a launch in, well, they say about 30 seconds, which sounds almost unbelievable for deploying infrastructure, right? But the key part, and what we really need to dig into, is their claim that the underlying Web4 tech ensures you, the creator, keep full sovereignty over your data, your privacy rules, your community guidelines right from that instant launch. We need to understand how that actually works architecturally.
Absolutely. How do you get from just an idea in your head to a live, functioning, sovereign digital community in less time than it takes to make a coffee? So we've broken their guide down into 3 main chunks. Phase 1, that's all the crucial prep work, defining what you're building, and importantly, its rules. Phase 2, that's the magic bit, the instant creation, the 30-second launch. And Phase 3, that's about making it your own customization, identity, and actually growing the community. Let's start at the beginning with that foundation, Phase 1.
Okay, phase 1, or step 1 as they call it, is this in-depth preparation. And it's interesting because it's not technical at all, but you could argue it's maybe the most important step. Before you even touch the AI prompts, you have to get crystal clear on your decentralized concept. What exactly is it? Who is it for? What are the rules? And this is vital because Linkspreed isn't trying to help you build the next global mega platform. It's geared towards creating these small, standalone, resilient things they call micronetworks. Think niche. Think specific purpose.
Right, that makes sense. Because if the AI has a really clear, narrow target, it can configure things much more effectively. If you just say, build me a social network, well, what does that even mean in a decentralized context? It'd be too broad, probably inefficient. So this first step, defining the concept, the vision, the governance, that really dictates how the AI builds the foundation. Okay, let's break that down. First part. The target audience.
Yeah, and precision here is everything. You really have to know exactly who this is for. We're talking super niche. Like, don't just think, oh, it's for gardeners. Think, okay, it's for enthusiasts of sustainable urban gardening, specifically those focused on, say, heirloom tomatoes in rooftop settings, that level of detail. Because that specificity lets the AI immediately know what features are probably not needed and which ones are critical. Maybe it needs tools for sharing soil pH readings or specific types of photo galleries optimized for plant growth tracking. It helps tailor that micronetwork perfectly.
So it's not just about features. It's also about the load profile, right? Like our urban gardeners might need lots of image storage, maybe some location features for regional groups. That implies certain needs for distributed storage. But if you were building, say, a private network for, I don't know, financial analysts discussing sensitive data, you'd need top-tier encryption for document sharing, very different identity protocols. The audience dictates the initial technical demands.
Exactly right. And that flows straight into the second piece. Defining the purpose and core goal. What is this network actually for? Is its main job real-time chatter, lots of quick updates, maybe like a focused private Twitter feed? Or is it more about professional networking, long-term knowledge sharing, structured discussions?
Yeah, this feels like where you define the core user experience. If it's all about real-time stuff, the AI needs to set up a really efficient, probably low-latency communication system, high throughput. But if the goal is more like a knowledge base, a forum, Then the priority shifts to things like robust search, good ways to organize threads, maybe archiving features. The goal really picks the main tools the AI activates first. It probably chooses between like synchronous versus asynchronous communication models right there.
And what's interesting with this Web4 snanas approach, they say, is how it handles that choice. Traditional platforms try to bolt everything on, be everything to everyone. Linkspreed seems to force you to prioritize what's the main thing. This lets the AI build something leaner, more purpose-built, and that efficiency is probably really important for making these things run well in a decentralized way, maybe even on lower power setups.
Okay, makes sense. And then the third element here, the big one, the Web4 differentiator. Data control and rules. This is that decentralized promise they talk about. It goes beyond what it does to how it runs and who's really in charge.
Yeah, this is absolutely crucial for the whole sovereignty angle. Before you hit go, you have to define the fundamental rules, your moderation policies, your privacy settings. Think about how different that is. Usually, the platform dictates terms of service, manages the data, sets the content rules. Here, the idea is that your choices get embedded into the network's configuration right from the start. They govern how data is accessed, how interactions happen.
So we're not just talking about writing a community guidelines page, are we? This sounds more like configuring the actual security and governance rules in the code or close to it. What kinds of specific decisions do you need to make here in this prep phase?
There are a few key things about sovereignty you need to nail down. First, encryption. What level? Do you need end-to-end encryption for everything or just certain things like private messages? Second, data storage and access. Since it's decentralized, where does the data actually live, conceptually? Who gets access keys? You define the protocols for the distributed storage layer. And third, maybe the trickiest one, moderation and rules. What's allowed, what's not. You define the rule book that the AI moderation tool, which we'll get to later, will use. Getting these answers clear in phase 1 is what supposedly ensures the final network is genuinely sovereign and controlled by you, not some external entity.
That's all. Well, it's a lot of upfront thinking.
Yeah.
The big responsibility. But I guess that's the deal for real digital autonomy. You're basically writing the Constitution and designing the security system before you even build the thing. Okay, so once you have that solid blueprint audience, goal, governance, then you move from planning to doing. And this next part is where the speed comes in.
Exactly. Now we're into phase 2, the 30-second launch. And yeah, the speed here is all down to the Linkspreed AI and their Web4 SNAS technology. This tech is designed to basically automate all that complex, decentralized setup stuff, initializing identity systems, setting up the distributed data pointers, configuring communication relays, and just make it happen fast.
Okay, let's look at step 2 in this phase, choosing your creation path. It's good they offer options, it seems. The 30-second thing is the headline, but there are alternatives.
Correct. They seem to cater to a few different user types. Path A is the main one we're discussing. The AI path, the 30-second method. This is for the non-technical founder, the community leader, the hobbyist who just wants it done quickly. You go to web4.community, give the AI your prompt based on phase 1, and it handles the deployment and setup. Ideal for speed, assuming your prep was good.
Okay. Then path B, the manual path. I'm guessing that's for people who do want to get under the hood a bit more, maybe tweak settings before launch.
Precisely. For someone who's maybe comfortable with server settings or database configurations, they want to fine-tune things like caching, maybe specific security headers before it goes live. You trade the raw speed for more granular control up front, but it's still using that same Web4 architecture.
Gotcha. But path C, the developer path using Web4 Lite, this one feels like it really leans into the whole decentralization ethos. Free, open source, self-hostable.
This is super interesting, yeah. Web4 Lite is positioned as the ultimate sovereignty option. It's for developers, tinkerers, people who want zero reliance on any third-party platform, even Linkspreed's SNAS. And the really striking detail in the source material is its ability to run on very low-power devices. They specifically mention the Raspberry Pi.
Whoa, hang on. A Raspberry Pi, like the little $50 computer. How can that possibly run a social network, even a micro one? Don't you need serious server power for handling users' data, security, all that distributed stuff? Doesn't decentralization still need, well, some infrastructure?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it points to a fundamental difference in how Web4 is apparently architected compared to traditional web services. Micronetworks on Web4 Lite aren't trying to run like Facebook on a Pi. They use highly efficient structures. Think distributed ledgers or similar lightweight methods for the core governance and identity that UIID system we'll talk more about. Communication is often peer-to-peer, which is less server-intensive. And crucially for storage, the Pi probably isn't holding all the big files like photos and videos. It's likely managing the keys and pointers that allow users to access storage spread across a decentralized network, like IPFS or something similar.
Ah, okay. So the Raspberry Pi acts more like a lightweight control node. It manages the identity, the rules, the secure communication routing, but the actual heavy lifting for data is handled elsewhere in the distributed system.
That seems to be the core idea. It handles the essential functions of sovereignty, managing the identity layer, enforcing the governance rules you set, but outsources the bulk data storage. This dramatically cuts down the processing and bandwidth needed on the node itself. It brings the possibility of hosting your own sovereign network down to a consumer level, which is pretty radical. It really pushes that democratization of control idea.
Yeah, that does lower the barrier significantly, not just for creating it, but for actually running it long-term yourself. Okay, so assuming someone picks the fast route, path A, the 30-second method, they then move to step 3. Formulating your precise one-prompt command. This is where all that phase 1 thinking gets boiled down into one instruction for the AI.
Right. And it's less like chatting with a creative AI and more like using a really sophisticated command line. That one single natural language prompt is the only input. The AI model behind it is trained to take your description, your audience, your purpose, your key features from phase 1 and translate that directly into a specific configuration for a decentralized network. If you're vague, you get something generic. If you're precise, you supposedly get something bespoke.
We really need to look at what makes a good prompt here. The source material gives some examples. Let's pull those apart. What do they tell us about the necessary detail?
Okay, let's break one down. Example 1. Create a decentralized network for sustainable urban gardening enthusiasts that emphasizes photo sharing and regional group formation. Xcode great. You see how it combines the audience, sustainable urban gardening enthusiasts, the topic, gardening, and the key features, photo sharing, regional groups.
Yeah, it's like a mini spec sheet. It tells the AI, okay, optimize for images, photo sharing, turn on location features and good group tools, regional group formation, and tailor the general vibe for hobbyists interested in sustainable urban gardening.
And critically, that sustainable urban gardening part also informs the governance context. The AI, based on the rules you defined back in phase 1 for this specific topic, knows to prioritize related content and potentially flag things that are way off topic, like, I don't know, random political posts or crypto scams.
Okay, let's look at the second one. It feels more utility-focused. Launch a private community for software developers focusing on Rust programming language, with forums and private messaging as primary tools.
Straight away, the priorities shift. Private community likely triggers much stricter security settings, maybe mandatory end-to-end encryption, tight access controls. The AI probably deprioritizes media features and instead focuses on building robust forums. That means things like threaded discussions, maybe support for code snippets, good search capabilities, and private messaging ensures a secure peer-to-peer chat module gets activated. The core language Rust programming sets the topic context again.
It's fascinating how it seems to pick and choose from a library of pre-built decentralized modules based on just a few keywords.
Okay.
Third example involves a different angle. Generate a social platform for vintage comic book collectors that allows for user ratings and trading posts.
Right, now we're into trust and commerce. The AI needs to pull in specific modules for that. User ratings means activating a reputation system. Trading posts implies setting up some kind of marketplace functionality. And importantly, for something like trading, the prompt implicitly tells the AI to deeply integrate the verifiable identity system that UIID core into the trading part to help build trust and reduce potential fraud. So that single sentence dictates structure, rules, communication style, and e-commerce features.
That translation capability is really the core of this MAU's offering, isn't it? Okay, so you've crafted your perfect prompt, you hit submit, and then step 4, execute the instant deployment. What actually happens in that 30-second window?
Well, once you submit the prompt, the Linkspreed snazzass engine kicks in. The AI parses your natural language, turns it into a detailed, machine-readable configuration file for their Web4 architecture. And that file acts like an instruction set, triggering the immediate setup of the network's core components.
What components are we talking about? It can't just be like setting up a web page. It has to be more complex for a decentralized network.
Definitely. It's a distributed setup. It likely involves at least 4 main things happening very quickly. 1, the identity layer gets initialized. The UIID service is configured based on your rules. 2, the distributed storage pointers are set up configuring how data will be referenced across the decentralized storage. 3, the necessary communication modules are activated chat systems, form structures, whatever the prompt specified. And 4, the initial governance configuration, your phase 1 rules, get written into the moderation system's baseline. The speed comes from the fact that these are likely pre-built modular components. The AI isn't coding from scratch, it's rapidly assembling and configuring these ready-to-go pieces based on your prompt. The result, supposedly, is that basic, stable, sovereign network structure live in about half a minute.
Wow. Like an orchestra conductor, but it's AI assembling infrastructure. Okay, so the network is technically live, functional, sovereign. But it's an empty stage, right? A platform isn't a community yet.
That takes us to the final phase, phase 3. Exactly. Phase 3 is all about turning that functional platform into a unique, inviting space. It's about securing its identity, leveraging that special UIID system properly, and actually getting people engaged and growing the community. The foundation's there, but now you add the character.
Okay, step 5 covers deep customization, identity, and moderation. First up, the look and feel. Branding and design. Seems obvious, but important.
Hugely important. If your network for, say, artisanal bakers looks like a generic corporate portal, people won't connect with it. That target audience you identified way back in phase 1 needs to feel like this space was made for them. So you need to customize the visuals, logo, colors, fonts to match the community's vibe or your brand. You know, the Rust developers probably want something clean, maybe a bit technical, dark mode perhaps. The comic collectors, maybe bright, dynamic, maybe a bit retro. It builds that sense of place.
Right. And beyond the visuals, there's functions and features optimization. The AI gave you a starting point based on the prompt, but now you need to get in there and really fine-tune things.
Absolutely. This is where you go beyond the initial AI setup. You might need to tweak how user profiles works, maybe add specific fields for credentials if it's a professional network, or optimize image uploads if it's very media heavy. You'd also really dig into the group management tools here. Micronetworks thrive on subgroups, so ensuring those are easy to create, manage, and discover is crucial for keeping things organized as you grow.
Okay, now for a really key piece of the Web4 tech.
Right.
Implement UID identity. We touched on it, but how does this decentralized identity system actually work in practice? What makes it different?
Right. UIID, Universal Immutable Identity Document. It's designed to solve a core problem in decentralized systems, balancing trust and privacy. The key idea is a separation between a core, secure identity and everyday interaction. So you have your core UID. Think of it as a rock-solid, verifiable, probably blockchain-anchored digital ID. It's immutable. This is what you'd use for really important stuff, like proving ownership of an account, maybe making a significant transaction, or casting a vote in community governance. High security, high trust actions.
Okay, so that's the anchor. But you don't want to use that for every single comment or post, right? That would kill privacy.
Exactly. So the second layer is dynamic pseudonyms. The system lets users create and use potentially unlimited pseudonyms for their day-to-day activity, chatting, posting articles, commenting. These pseudonyms aren't directly linked to the core UID on a public level. The magic happens when needed. The system allows a user to cryptographically prove, if they choose, that a specific pseudonym is linked to their verified UID. This might happen, say, when completing a trade, or if they want to build reputation under a specific handle, but they control when that link is revealed or verified.
Ah, I see. So back to the comic book example, I might browse and chat using ComicFan82, but if I list a valuable comic for sale from that account, I can optionally trigger a verification that shows buyers ComicFan82 is backed by a verified reputable UID without revealing my core identity in every casual chat thread.
Precisely that. It gives you accountability where it matters, like in transactions, without forcing total transparency everywhere else. It lets users manage their own privacy granularly. This controlled link between pseudonyms and a verifiable core ID is a really important architectural feature for functional decentralized communities.
That sounds powerful, flexible, and secure. Okay, the last part of step 5 is facing reality. Set up AI-assisted moderation. Even in your own sovereign space, you need rules and enforcement.
You absolutely do. Unmoderated spaces tend to decay quickly, but manual moderation, especially as you grow, is incredibly time-consuming. So the idea here is to use the integrated Web4 AI, but not as an autonomous judge. Remember those rules you defined back in phase 1. Now, you essentially train the AI based on those specific rules for your niche community. It becomes your assistant moderator enforcing your guidelines.
How does that training work? Do you just feed it the rule book?
It's likely more sophisticated than that. You'd probably provide it with examples. Lots of examples of content that is acceptable within your specific niche, and examples of content that violates your rules. For the urban gardening network, you teach it that detailed debates about aphids are fine, but off-topic political rants or spamming crypto links are not. The AI learns the patterns based on your specific context and guidelines.
Okay, so once it's got some training, what does this AI assistant actually do?
It primarily helps with scale. First, content flagging. It can automatically scan new posts and comments, identify potential rule violations based on its training, maybe assign a severity score, and then surface the problematic or borderline cases for human review. It handles the obvious stuff. Second, support responses. For common questions, how do I create a group? What's the rule on X? It can generate draft responses based on your knowledge base, saving moderators time. Third, maybe even content stimulation. Depending on the setup, it could potentially suggest discussion topics or summarize long threads to encourage engagement based on the network's goals. The key is it assists human moderators. It frees them up from wading through every single post to focus on the nuanced cases, community building, and refining the rules themselves.
Right, it handles the volume, letting humans handle the judgment. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
So the platform is customized, identity is set up, moderation is humming along. Now you need people. Step 6. Content activation and community growth strategy.
Yeah, the classic, if you build it, they will come, doesn't always work online. First practical tip, content seeding. You can't launch to an empty room. When those first potential members arrive, if they see tumbleweeds, they'll just leave. It feels dead.
That initial impression is so crucial, isn't it? So the advice is, before you even announce the network publicly, the founder or core team needs to pre-populate it. Post some interesting discussions, share some valuable resources, upload some relevant media. Basically, make it look lived in and engaging right from day one, even if it's simulated activity initially.
Exactly. Get those first few high-quality threads going. Seed the conversations you want to see happening. Then, once people start trickling in, it shifts to active community management. This means using the platform's tools, maybe running polls, hosting Q&A sessions, starting weekly challenges related to the niche. For the Rust developers, maybe it's a code challenge. For the gardeners, a photo contest. You need that human touch to actively encourage interaction and make people feel welcome. That's what drives real growth.
And then, when you're ready to actively recruit, you need to leverage the unique selling proposition. Invite and promote.
This is where you really lean into the why. Why should someone join your micro network instead of just sticking to the big platforms? The answer is the decentralization. Your marketing pitch becomes about sovereignty. Join our community where you control your data. This is a space governed by us, the members, not some algorithm in Silicon Valley. You promote the privacy, the ownership, the focused niche. That's what will attract the kind of users who value those things, the ones Web4 seems designed for.
Makes sense. And one last point mentioned is, for people thinking bigger scale, an agency partnership program.
Yeah, they briefly mentioned this, the Agentur Partnerschafts program, which translates to agency partnership program. It seems like an option for digital agencies or maybe professional community managers. It allows them to use this SNAS platform to build and manage these micro networks for their clients. So an agency could specialize in launching niche communities, handle the setup and management, and earn recurring fees, all built on this Web4 tech without having to develop the core infrastructure themselves. It's a way to scale the offering professionally.
Wow. Okay, so we've really covered the whole journey, from painstakingly defining your niche and rules in Phase 1 to that incredibly fast 30-second deployment using the one prompt command in Phase 2, and then into the crucial work of customization, setting up UID identity, AI-assisted moderation, and strategic growth in Phase 3. It really is a detailed roadmap for launching your own sovereign digital space using Web4.community.
And I think, the big picture here, the main takeaway for you listening is how models like this Web4 SNAS could genuinely lower the barrier to creating these kinds of custom sovereign digital environments. It starts to move the power away from just a few giant platforms by making creation much more accessible technologically and economically.
It feels like it fundamentally shifts the dynamic. Being able to spin up a dedicated, secure platform that quickly while keeping full control over data and rules, that's more than just neat tech. It feels like a potential countercurrent to the way the web has become so centralized.
Which brings us back to that fascinating point about Web4 Lite and the Raspberry Pi. Let's just sit with that for a final thought. If it's truly possible to run a fully functional sovereign community network with secure identity, maybe even AI assistance on hardware that simple, that affordable, What does that really mean for digital autonomy? What happens when building resilient community infrastructure doesn't require massive data centers anymore, but can genuinely be owned and operated by individuals or small groups completely outside the control of big tech? Where could that lead?
That really is the provocative question, isn't it? If the tools for building your own slice of the internet on your own terms are becoming this accessible, what kind of essential micro network, what kind of truly independent digital space could you build and maybe even host yourself in the near future?
Something to think about. A challenge, perhaps.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the one-prompt method and building decentralized networks.
We hope it gave you some insights into what might be possible for digital sovereignty.
We'll see you next time on the Deep Dive.